I just made the biggest financial mistake of my life when I bought this house. Or did I? It seems like right now, all the financial gurus are telling us that it's a terrible time to buy a house and that renting is way cheaper. Now, I know I sound crazy and I'm definitely not following any financial advice, but my wife and I have been planning for a year to be able to buy this house, to save enough money to have zero debt and to be ready to buy a house. So let me show you how awesome it is. To give you context and a little bit of backstory, my wife and I were living in Hawaii a year ago, right here on the north shore of Oahu. But while we were there, we realized we'd rather be living in a place where we own a place. Not that there's anything wrong with renting, but it was something that we had been wanting to do for so long. So we made the goal to do it in October of 2024. Wow, that's feels like a long time ago. For reference, when we started this plan, we had like maybe $5,000 in our bank account. We just bought a dinky $3,000 car and we literally had like nothing to our name. My wife had just finished college and I was still doing school, basically full time and trying to do Lego YouTube on the side, which was just fun. Yeah. But from that month, we decided that we wanted to buy. We started saving every single penny we could, which was kind of difficult living in one of the most expensive states in the entirety of the United States. But we did do a really good job at budgeting. And that's one thing that this whole process taught us, was actually how to spend our money in the right way and not overspend on things that we definitely don't need, like this camera that I'm using and the light that I bought and the green screen and But truthfully, what I think was craziest for us the most is that we did all of this stuff while we were living in the most expensive state. And we ended up coming home back to Utah with over $20,000 saved. But the problem is we didn't have a car. And we kind of needed one since we were both gonna be doing more stuff, you kind of need a car. So we did what any poor people do who barely have jobs. We bought a Tesla. But not in the way that you might think. You see, right here is the car that we bought. It's a 2021 Tesla Model Y. And you might think that that's crazy for two people that are 22 years old to be buying a Tesla, especially when we were saving for a house and basically have no money. The truth is, we paid completely for it in cash with the help of the tax credit, which literally ended like 2 months after we decided to buy it. And it has been the best car that we could have purchased. I'm not here to talk about Teslas, so we're gonna leave that out for a little bit. But what matters most here is that we bought this car with cash, no debt, but then we were basically back down to where we started in the October before. This is where things got really hard. My wife and I are both religious, and we both believe that God was helping us along the way as we were trying to figure out how to buy this house. But after we bought our car and went down to zero and had jobs that weren't paying as much as we needed them to, it felt like literally hopeless. We thought that our journey was over. So we started looking at places to rent and kind of felt like we should give up on the idea, which sucked. I remember vividly one call that we had with a lending officer who basically told us that we wouldn't be able to afford anything unless we increased something or just waited. And it sucked, especially here in Utah when housing prices are skyrocketing. It seems like all the time. I mean, they are everywhere. It's super hard to buy a place in basically anywhere but the middle of Texas. So honestly, we started kind of giving up. We were still working towards our goal, but it felt so unattainable. And then I had all these doubts, wondering, well, maybe God was never helping us at all, or maybe now is a really terrible time to buy and it shouldn't have ever worked out, and this was the way it was supposed to be. But that just didn't ever sit right. And that's when the unexpected things started happening. My wife had a job open up that we didn't think we would even want her to take, and it worked out in a good way. And all of a sudden I started making money on things that I never thought were even possible. And we both had to sacrifice a lot, but somehow it started to work out. And then that's when really good stuff started happening, like help from family and friends. And a recuperation of all of the money that we had spent on our car. In fact, we ended up with more money by the end of this whole thing when it took us almost a year to save just that $20,000. In 3 months, we ended up recuperating most of that somehow, which even then was pretty awesome, but we still had issues when actually trying to look for a house. We couldn't really find exactly what we wanted, and we couldn't quite afford what would be ideal. So we thought maybe we should settle or give up again. And then when we started looking at houses and we found one that we really liked, and another one that we also really liked, we thought, okay, well, at least we have a backup. And then our backup went under contract, and the one that we really liked was just out of reach. So yeah, it ends there. Or does it? What's crazy is how our backup actually went down. Now, we don't know the whole story, and so I'm not gonna get into it too much, but basically it had only been on the market for a few days and went under contract immediately. We barely had time to see it before it did, but then all of a sudden it fell through. And we have no idea what truly happened behind that falling through, but what happened couldn't have been better for us, because we ended up seeing it again and we decided to make an offer because it was the best deal that we could find for something that we felt like we could live in for at least a good amount of time. After going through that entire confusing buying process, especially for people who have never bought a home before, it was so nice to finally carry her in to our brand new home that we just bought together. And this is what the house looks like. And it took me a few weeks, but since my wife was working so much, I had so much time to make videos for YouTube and also start creating a home. I was able to put things in places and start getting stuff set up. And even though there were hiccups at Quantum Fiber, would not recommend them. But at least they fixed it eventually after I called them 4 times, and still didn't get a discount though. Still looking for that discount. But now the house is ready, and sure, we made this big financial mistake by buying right now. We ended up buying at a time when the rates were the lowest that we'd seen in a long time. We're able to get seller concessions and a whole bunch of different little things that ended up working out in our favor. It's not perfect, and it's not the place that we expected a year ago, but it's exactly what we could use right now to make our lives better and to have a place that we can actually call home and make our own. So I set up all the things in the house, set up the bed, got the TV hung by myself. That's 55 inches right there. It's no joke. By myself too. Oh, I'm tired. Oh my gosh. You know, all that good stuff. And I found some places for some things in the kitchen. I don't know, I'm not really good at finding places for stuff, so my wife's gonna have to redo that, but we did it. We did all this at the age of 22. I built that. Yep. Right here. Not the mattress, but the bed frame. And of the night before my 23rd birthday, we slept in our house for the first time on our new mattress in a new house that we finally could call our own. And we ended up making a Kirby rug too later that day. So, you know, that's pretty cool. Basically what I'm saying here isn't that everyone should be homeowners or that everyone needs to be homeowners, but if you're thinking about it and you're not doing it because everyone else is saying you shouldn't, maybe it's not so bad of a time after all. And you might actually be happy with what you're doing if you're ready for the financial commitment. Of course, this isn't financial advice, but this is the story of how my wife and I, we made our biggest financial mistake. And maybe in a few years we'll regret it, but for the meantime, we're homeowners, baby. Okay, bye.